This is Agriculture Today, and I'm Shelby Varner with the K-State Radio Network. Jane Schuh, Director of K-State Research and Extension and Associate Dean of Research and Graduate Programs for the College of Agriculture, begins today's show with two segments as she takes the time to look back on 2024 to recognize the work that has been accomplished. Jane highlights the research, collaboration, and students at Kansas State University. We are also joined by Ron Wilson with a Kansas profile. K-State dairy specialist Mike Brouk ends today's show discussing some of the federal milk marketing order's proposed changes to the way milk checks are calculated, which he says could benefit Kansas dairy farmers. That and more is coming up ahead. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we start our Tuesday show recapping K-State Research and Extension and the College of Agriculture work and research in the year of 2024 with Director of K-State Research and Extension and Associate Dean of Research and Graduate Programs for the College of Agriculture, Jane Schuh. Jane, thanks for joining us today.
Lovely to be here again. Good to see you.
Jane, talking through a few major points that have happened at K-State. And the first one, Global Center for Grain and Food. And first off, what is it? And some new faces around there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, last year when you and I sat down to talk, I was just kind of getting my feet under me, and this just hadn't even cut ground yet on this. So the Global Center is going to be really a great way to collaborate across campus. It's going to be right between Call Hall and Weber Hall. So connecting those two really important buildings and with a focus around food and grain, but also around kind of some big areas that we are looking at really across the university to collaborate. So one of those being human health and well-being, advanced manufacturing, biosafety and food security, and then sustainable ag practices, which is really important across the university. And those four things have really been adopted even more widely than just the College of Agriculture, which ag is so collaborative across the whole university. But we really are embracing sustainability on campus right now. There's some really neat things that are happening.
And someone you described as a pretty cool person before the interview is leading that center.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple of people actually. So we've got a new department head in the Department of Grain Science and Industry, Joseph Owika. He came in August and is already really shaking it up. He's got some fantastic thoughts on where we can go with some of these areas. He brings a lot of expertise in food science himself, but just has really been a fantastic collaborator already. He's been in a lot of meetings that I've been in, and just I can't say enough. He's got a great mindset for abundance and the fact that working together, we're really going to up our game. So wonderful to have him. And then when you look at some of the other kind of sustainability things that we're talking about water. And I remember you and I talking about, wow, you can't talk for 5 minutes without somebody talking about how important water is in Kansas. And there's been some big, really some big advances this last year at K-State on that topic as well. So Darren Rudnick was someone that we hired away from Nebraska. Go team. And he is working really closely with Susan Metzger, who is leading the Kansas Water Institute, multidisciplinary, multi-institutional state institute that's really looking at all things water. Brought together a huge team of K-State researchers, but also researchers outside of K-State to really think about what are the different aspects of water, conservation, quality, quantity, how we use it, how we use our land. What does that look like as we move forward? And one of the really neat things, and I think anybody who participated in this year will attest to it, is the TAPS program. So it's basically a competition where different groups get together and they say, I'm going to plant this corn. This is how much water I'm going to put on it at this time. And, these are the inputs. And then it's a competition to see who gets the most in the end. So there's yields, but there's also what's your dollar value going in and going out. So how much do you actually make, which is really an important aspect. And they did that with corn last year, but now this next go around in 2025, they're going to do one on forages. Really important because things like sorghum and millet using less water than corn. Well, how do we work that into raising beef or raising dairy cows? How do they take on weight? What's the pluses, what's the minuses, and how do we fit that into how we're working? So Darren Rudnick is the guy who's really in charge of that, and it's been going great. Everybody is having a good time working through those. It's really important for awareness and hearing best practices from your neighbors. So I think that's been a good one.
And we've also seen a lot of collaboration when it comes to beef.
Oh, tremendous stuff. I have to tell you, I love Kansas beef. So I'm a big fan. But we're really doubling down on our collaborative efforts really across the state and investing in some of the infrastructure and in the personnel that we have, not only in Manhattan, which is important, of course. Manhattan's kind of like Mecca, I think, but really across the state, because that's one of the beauties of a land grant is that we serve the entire state of Kansas, and we have places across Kansas that we have research centers. So one of those examples is the Rannells Ranch, which, if you know where the Kanza is, it's right across the road, right across the street. But wonderful collaboration that's going on there. Clinton Owensby was the director there for many, many, many years, and I think a lot of people were, oh gosh, when he retired this summer, that's the end of an era. And, kudos to him for having such a long and illustrious career at K-State. But bringing in, we have co-directors right now, and it has been just wonderful to see their collaboration already. So Logan Thompson and Sophie Westbrook, one from animal science, one from agronomy, and working together on what this looks like for the soil, what this looks like for animal agriculture and grazing, what this looks like for lots of that production ag, and having it be right across the highway from the Kanza that has decades and decades of kind of the ecological is how I think of it, data on if you do burn rates once a year or once every other year or once every 5 years or once every 20 years, and they have that kind of longitudinal data, what a great opportunity to compare and contrast when we're looking at this, production-focused area. So very, very impressed there. And, the other thing that I really like to see, we have collaborations with our communications people, too. So near and dear to your heart, I'm sure, but Nellie Hill Sullins is working really closely with them as well to talk about, how do you talk about practices that are going to be, good for your soil and regenerative ag and appropriate for what we're trying to do in production agriculture, and in a way that people will see it, will hear it, and can take it in and use it. So those are pretty important. We're fundraising for a new beef feedlot at the Beef Cattle Research Center in Manhattan, which is really exciting. This is going to be a place where you can do evidence-based research on nutrition for cattle, and can do it in a place that I think we kind of hit the sweet spot, in that we'll have a metabolism barn that you can do basically research on individual animals. We'll have a small pen, high replicate feedlot, 10 head pens, 125 of them. And you can do kind of smaller groups of animals, but multiples of those. So you get good research data. Very difficult to do that type of research on a commercial lot that you have, thousands of animals. So pretty excited about the opportunities that we have there. We'll also have, a feed mill for feeding the animals. And that's an important thing. So our student trainees can get hands-on experience mixing rations, doing things like that as well. So we're also, and this is another thing, I'm so excited about this. And you maybe even saw this because it came out not too long ago. We're working, our folks in Western Kansas, REC, are working with the Garden City Community College and Garden City in general to kind of co-locate our research center that's in Garden City so that we can deliver K-State classes in Garden City where there really isn't a 4-year degree program, working with their community there to deliver really some needed aspects in agriculture. And a lot of that, again, is in beef because that's where a lot of our cattle feeders are located and a lot of our dairy folks as well. So that was just announced, I think, a week ago, maybe something like that. Very excited because that's a K-State collaboration across the state.
And we focused our conversation towards beef, but some other people in animal sciences have been doing some really cool things as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one thing, want to give a shout out to our swine nutrition team. Probably one of the best swine nutrition teams in the world, honestly. They publish tremendously. They have a huge fan following, and they work together in such a cohesive unit. It's really tremendous to see, bringing in new researchers, training new researchers, and I tell you what, those students that come through there are highly sought after and have wonderful jobs, sometimes with us, which is great. But yeah, that's really fantastic.
That was Director of K-State Research and Extension and Associate Dean of Research and Graduate Programs for the College of Agriculture here at Kansas State University, Jane Schuh. We're going to cut to a short break, but when we come back, we'll once again be joined by Jane as she continues sharing things that have happened around K-State Research and Extension and the College of Agriculture in 2024. I would like to remind you, as always, you can find out more information about beef at K-State by going to ksubeef.org. Again, that is ksubeef.org. We're cutting to a short break now, but we'll be right back. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we continue our show and conversation with Director of K-State Research and Extension and Associate Dean of Research and Graduate Programs for the College of Agriculture at K-State, Jane Schuh. Jane, as we continue recapping things that have happened for K-State Research and Extension and the College of Agriculture in 2024, wanting to take a look into what's been happening for crop science and agronomy.
Their research is just knocking it out of the park. Was just talking to their department head a little while ago, and he's saying, we are at our max that we've ever had for graduate students. Really training that next level of graduate students and across the board. We do so many different types of things in agronomy. All the way from our breeders that, breed new varieties of wheat and soybeans, canola, sorghum. But we're also really involved in new applications and new types of innovation, and have just hired a couple new precision ag researchers who I've had the chance to get to know a little bit and talk to quite a bit. And they're just wonderful, the types of things and the types of collaborations that they have. I was talking to one of them, Gaurav Jha, who's a rock star, and he's at a collaboration with somebody who's doing modeling in mathematics, and a chemist who's working in entomology, and this is the part that sticks in my brain, is doing plant tattoos. And my plant tattoos seem really cool. Plant tattoos that will give a signature that you can detect from a drone and maybe even from a satellite when a plant is under stress. So think about the different things that you could tie that to. You've got water stress, and that's what we were talking about. So either you've got drought, or maybe it's the quality of the water, and you've got heavy metals that are showing up, something like that. It can be an indicator for your field. How many of these plants do we need to be an indicator that we can just fly over the field and be able to say, oh, we need fill in the blank, more water here, or we need to remediate something there. I'm amazed at the type of research that gets done here.
And while we're at K-State, we have to mention the students and some amazing team effort that's happened in 2024.
Yeah, man, I can't even tell you. I was at the KLA dinner and kind of heard a little hum around the table, and somebody said, "Oh, they got the trifecta." I'm like, "They what?" So K-State students in animal science absolutely cleaned house this year. So they won the judging trifecta of livestock, meat, and meat animal evaluation at the North American International Livestock Expo Judging Contest. That was just in Louisville, Kentucky. But the livestock judging team won swine, sheep, goats, and reason, and they were second in cattle. So next year we're getting them in cattle too. And we had the top individual, who I understand Jacob Clout. Jacob's from Beulah, North Dakota, which North Dakota is my hometown, so it was kind of cool to see that too. And then our folks over in agronomy as well. The crops judging team defended their national championship this year, and Rachel Cott is their faculty advisor. Just what an amazing opportunity you get at K-State to be on these teams and have this experience and have this tradition of championships.
And as we're talking about amazing people here at K-State and the College of Agriculture, have to mention Ernie Mitten.
Oh, absolutely. So I have had the absolute pleasure of working with Dean Minton over the last 18 months. So he's stepping into a new role July 1st of 2025, and he's going to be focused on raising funds for the continued improvement and the advancement of K-State Ag. So we'll be looking for a new dean, but boy, whoever comes in is going to have some big shoes to fill. Just on a personal note, Ernie is one of the kindest men you'll ever meet. He's thoughtful, considerate, incredibly humble, one of the best bosses, if not the best boss that I have ever worked for. It's been just a pleasure to work with him, all of us in agriculture. Thank him for 40-plus years of dedicated service to K-State, and that man wears purple well. So we wish him all the best.
Jane, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today and recap 2024 for us.
It was a good year.
It absolutely was. That was Director of K-State Research and Extension and Associate Dean of Research and Graduate Programs for the College of Agriculture at K-State, Jane Schuh. As always, if you're wanting to find out more information about the College of Agriculture, there are a few different ways you can do that. You can look online at ag.k-state.edu. Again, that is ag.k-state.edu, or you can find them on social media. If you're wanting to find out more information about K-State Research and Extension, you can do that by going to ksre.k-state.edu. Again, that's ksre.k-state.edu. Before we cut to a break, we're now going to be joined by Ron Wilson from the Huck Boyd National Institute for Rural Development at K-State as he discusses Derek Fagan, who owns Coyote Welding.
This is Kansas Profile. I'm Ron Wilson, Director of the Huck Boyd National Institute for Rural Development at Kansas State University. Bigfoot has been sighted, and boy, is he big. Today we'll meet a rural Kansas welding shop which does metal repairs and millwright work and also finds time for fun projects such as constructing a giant model of Bigfoot. It's today's Kansas Profile. Derek Fagan is the owner and founder of Coyote Welding in Kinsley, Kansas. Born in McPherson, he served as a mechanic in the military and took welding classes at night. After the service, he moved to Kinsley and took welding jobs in the area. For 21 years, he worked as a welder at Cimarron Welding. In 2021, his boss at Cimarron Welding chose to retire. I already had this building in Kinsley, so I decided to open my own shop here, Fagan said. He bought equipment from his former boss. That equipment had the initials CW engraved on it for Cimarron Welding, Fagan said. I decided to name my business Coyote Welding so I could use the same initials, he said. The coyote is the mascot of the local high school, so it was a perfect fit. Coyote Welding opened in March 2022. Today, Coyote Welding is a full-service repair, maintenance, and metal fabrication business. I do a lot of repair work for the farmers around here, Fagan said. The company also manufactures parts for major agribusiness companies in the region. Fagan has twin sons and a younger daughter, Krista. She works in the medical field. One son, Andrew, studied civil engineering at K-State and works for BG Construction in Manhattan. The other son, Daniel, studied engineering design at Fort Hays State and has joined Coyote Welding back home in Kinsley. The boys grew up around this type of metal production. I spent a summer as an intern sitting behind a desk at a company in Kansas City, and I knew I wanted to do more hands-on work, Daniel said. I took every shop class I could in high school, he said. When I was in school at Fort Hays State, our teacher wanted us to do a class project, so we built a 3D model of a tiger head, the college mascot, Daniel said. That gave Daniel the idea that he could build other structures. At Coyote Welding, Daniel runs the plasma table, Fagan said. He designs and manufactures parts as needed. The plasma cutter also enables the creation of intricate designs in metal. For fun, Daniel found a digital file online that he could use to program the plasma cutter to cut the pieces necessary to build a model of the mythical Bigfoot. The file imports into the plasma software and tells the plasma cutter how to cut the pieces, Daniel said. In the shop, they bend and weld the pieces together to create the final product. I was able to scale up the design from 9 feet to nearly 12 feet, Fagan said. There were 97 pieces of metal hand-bent as needed. 500 bends were used. The result was an almost 12-foot-tall Bigfoot, which stands outside the Coyote Welding Shop along Highway 56 in Kinsley. It is highly visible right next to the highway. To say this is eye-catching would be an understatement. Countless vehicles have made a U-turn to get a closer look. People stop all the time to take pictures, Fagan said. The pictures have even been posted on Wichita television. The Fagans have created other structures as well. They constructed a remarkably lifelike model of a dog. For Halloween, they built a giant metal jack-o'-lantern. They designed Christmas-themed products such as snowmen and candy canes. We build that stuff for fun when we have time, Fagan said. While these projects are for fun, they have definitely generated visibility for Coyote Welding. That's good to see in a rural community such as Kinsley, population 1,456 people. Now that's rural. For more information, search for Coyote Welding on Facebook. Bigfoot has been sighted in Kansas. We commend Derek and Daniel Fagan of Coyote Welding, who are making a difference by building this business and also creating this huge piece of visual art. It is definitely a sight to see. For the Huck Boyd National Institute for Rural Development, this is Ron Wilson with Kansas Profile.
Once again, that was Kansas State University's Ron Wilson with this week's Kansas Profile, which was on Derek Fagan, owner of Coyote Welding. I will put a link in today's show notes on ag.k-state.edu if you'd like to check out other K-State Research and Extension Kansas profiles. We're cutting to a short break now on Agriculture Today, but when we come back, we'll be joined by K-State dairy specialist Mike Brouk for this week's Milk Lines. This is our last show for December 2024, but we will be back with you on January 2nd in 2025. I hope everyone has a safe and happy holidays, and I look forward to talking with you in just a little over a week.
This is Agriculture Today. Along with Shelby Varner, I'm Jeff Wickman. We end today's program with this week's Milk Lines. The Federal Milk Marketing Order is proposing changes to the way milk checks are calculated. K-State dairy specialist Mike Brouk discusses some of the proposed changes and how they might impact Kansas dairy farmers.
Today I'd like to visit with our Kansas dairy producers concerning some changes that might be coming to the way your milk checks are calculated. You know, we've been working on a process with the federal milk marketing orders for quite a while now. It actually started back in August of 2023 with some hearings that were held to determine whether or not there should be some changes made to the milk marketing orders across the United States. And we've progressed through that process, and USDA has come up with some suggested changes. And finally now, our dairy producers will have an opportunity to vote on those final changes. So as you think about those final changes, if you are an independent dairy producer and not marketing through a qualified co-op, then you'll have an opportunity to cast a ballot yourself. For those that are part of a milk marketing cooperative, generally those ballots will be cast by your milk marketing cooperative. You still have input in that through your milk marketing cooperative, but you need to make sure that you get that comment in if you want to have some influence on the decisions that might be made there. So as we think about the potential changes, what are the real important things about the proposed changes? Well, number one, There is a proposed change that we move back to the higher of the Class 1 mover, as it used to be early in the revision to the milk marketing order. That higher of the Class 3 or Class 4 mover was utilized for the first 20 years of the revisions to the milk marketing order, and then changed by a recent farm bill. Since that change, it probably hasn't been the most advantageous option for our dairy producers, as many people have calculated that it's probably cost us significantly each year in our milk checks. Some have estimated that that cost is somewhere between $800 million and maybe $1 billion per year to our dairy farmers collectively across the United States. So moving back to the higher of the Class 3 or Class 4 mover rather than a average of those two should be an advantage for our dairy producers moving forward in terms of the way milk checks are calculated. There's also some other changes that may have some impact on our milk checks, including some changes to the milk allowance, as well as some changes to Class 1 differentials. So in total, will this be a positive thing or a negative thing to a dairy producer's check? I think most analysis have shown that it will be a positive thing in increasing the level that dairy farmers are paid for the raw milk they're shipping. However, there may be some cases where it does not figure out quite so well for a producer. So I'd encourage our Kansas dairy producers to make sure that if they are an independent producer, that they cast their ballots on time. Ballots should be mailed to you. They must be postmarked by December 31st in order to be counted and received by the milk marketing orders by January 15th. If you have questions about what this might mean, you might want to review some of the things that are available at the AMS hearing website. There are many different links there that you can look at, various information as to how these changes might affect your milk check. So again, just encourage our dairy producers that are independent and have the opportunity to vote that they do that by December 31st. Others that market their milk through a qualified cooperative need to try to influence their cooperative on which way to cast ballots on this important measure for our dairy industry. This is Mike Brouk with K-State Research and Extension.
Thanks, Mike. And that'll do it for this edition of Agriculture Today. Due to Kansas State University being closed Christmas Day through New Year's, this is our last Agriculture Today for 2024. For Shelby Varner, I'm Jeff Wickman. We wish you a happy holiday season and hope you'll join us back on the air January 2nd. This is the K-State Radio Network.